I know they're not all equal, I can promise you. They made them all look equal, said nope, figure not trying to scale, to give themselves a disclaimer and an out. I can guarantee you they're not gonna be all equal, but I'm gonna go test what I know. The bottom line is I cannot trust my eyes on this, I must obey only what I know about the angles. And what do you know about vertical angles? So I know that my y and my u will have to be equal. I know that my x and my t will have to be equal. What's this, a w? And z have to be equal. Vertical, I know that's true. And you better make that assessment, again, what's the C in sheet? Connections, conclusions. You should have taken 5-10 seconds to do that examination before you go into the words. You need to go into the question with this truth already in your head. So I got that. Great. I also want you to observe that any three angles combined add up to, and all of them together add up 1, 2, 360. Now, it turns out that those facts will not have an impact on this question. But that's the kind of thing you need to be analyzing, right? Okay, I got this info, I'm going into my question now. I go into my question, and it tells me exactly what I knew, they all intersect. And x plus y equals u plus w. In defense of the test makers, they don't give you a lot really of superfluous information. Superfluous? Super, above, fluous, flowing above what is needed or required. They don't give you superfluous stuff. So if they bother to put this in here, they expect you to make a connection or conclusion from it. So since I'm looking at those four angles, I know something about two of those. X plus y equals u plus w. What do we know?
X and y equals 2u.
No, of the four put here, what do I know about this? I know y equals u. Therefore, what connection conclusion must you make if they're equal? X equals w, and if it equals w, it equals everything w equals. And if z equals w and z equals x, it equals everything x equals. And that's all you can determine.
Oh, why didn't
I know, I didn't even do anything with you.
So if they gave you the equation, you gotta make a conclusion from it.
I should have written more down because the more I was like trying to make connections, the more I was just confusing myself. Like, this equals this, and this equals this. I'm like, no, I can't make this conclusion yet. And it's like, oh,
Yeah, don't get too involved in advance. Take your basic connections, go into the sentence, use the new information they give you, and then draw more conclusions. And so the answer should be what? 1 and 3, B. And what about these guys? I don't know. Technically, because figure not drawn to scale, this could be the actual drawing. This could be y and u. But these guys are still equal. Right?
I wish they did a different drawing though.
Oh no, not these guys.
Yeah.
Not these guys. All right? Number 12, probably. Did you plug the ordered pair in? What? Okay. Okay, so let me add, but even by plugging the ordered pair in, you need another piece. So let me show you this. This is very important, guys. I want you to file this forward in your brain because I see this repeatedly. So forget that problem, just focus up here for a moment. If you have ever a quadratic, I keep swooshing. Let's do, I don't know, x minus 2x plus 4, I don't know, whatever. Was that what they have? Well, I'll keep it, I'll just use it. If ever you're given a parabola in its binomial format, in its factored form. We can immediately identify what are our x-intercepts, zeros, roots, solutions, right? So that's a connection conclusion you should have done immediately before going into the words. So I know, because of land of opposites, that my roots are where? 2 and -4. Yeah, okay. I want you to, and this is what I want you to take away. Anytime you spot roots, immediately identify your line of symmetry as well. Do that as well. Why? Because I said so. Because I've seen them doing this over and over, where knowing the line of symmetry will be the linchpin to help you solve. So identify your roots, and immediately also find halfway between your roots. What's halfway between the 2 and the -4?
-1.
So I know my line of symmetry is here, and why is that significant? Because that is also equal to my x value of the vertex. Right? Missed. Getting worse. Right? So you can easily, everybody spots the land of opposites, your roots. But please add to that, immediately also identify your line of symmetry, because that is your negative, your -1 here, that's the value, the x value of your vertex. I don't know the y value. I don't know the y value, but I know the x value. And I've just seen time and time again where that simple truth, that simple fact, will help unlock the problem for you. Okay, so if you make that quick analysis and you go, and these are, I'm at 2, -4, line of symmetry, -1. Got it. Take that into the question. A is a non-zero constant, so you're being coy with me. You're not telling me if it opens up or opens down. It's fine. I don't know if it's positive or negative. I'll just keep going. No, but that's not going to make a difference in this case, but I hope you would notice that. The graph of the equation, the vertex, they gave me the vertex. And what do I already know about my vertex? C equals -1. Go plug your ordered pair in and solve, please. It's that easy. Plug in D for your y value, plug in -1 for your x value, and it's easy McPeasy. So -3 times +3. 9a. D equals -9a. The math is always easy. It's knowing what they want from you. So please add that. Spot your roots. Immediately spot your line of symmetry as well. I mean, it gets a little bit maddening sometimes when you go, I can do -3 times +3, come on, this is too easy math. But it's understanding what they want you to see. Number 13, who solved this by cheating? Who didn't solve this at all? Oh, let's cheat, come on.
This was one of them.
Now, my favorite cheat value to test with is usually 0, but why won't that work here? Because then my A disappears, right? I can't plug in 0 for x because then A goes away and I can't solve for A. So what value do I have to pick? 1. What are the limitations on x? Well, I can't have 2 over A. Well, that's great, I wasn't going to pick that anyway. I was going to pick 0, 1, -1, right? So let's plug in 1. You did? So let's go get the answer. What's 1 squared? Times 24? This is such difficult math. So 24 plus 25 is? Minus 47. We're going to have 2, and what's A times 1? Minus 2. So that's what we have on the left side, right? Is this, I mean, if you plug in 1, isn't that what we get on the left side of the equation?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it on the right side of the equation. What's 1 times negative 8? Minus 3. Minus 53 over a minus 2. This, of course, is actually negative 11. So, what do we do with this? I should have 2 over a minus 2 equals negative 11 minus 53 over a minus 2. And I'm supposed to solve for a, so I don't want a in my denominator, but I do have a couple of like terms still, don't I? What should I do with like terms? So what are we going to do? Add 53 over a minus 2 to both sides, right? And we get what? 55 over equals negative 11. I could, or I could just multiply both sides by a minus 2. And what do we get? And that equals that's a 5. I gotta get better at writing on this thing. And do the basic math from there, right? Subtract 22 from each side, divide both sides by negative 11. What does A equal? Cheap. Just test 1. Any other questions on 13?
Wait, so why can't it be 0?
Because if I plugged in 0 for x, what's 0 times a? 0, and now my a goes away, I can't solve for a.
Okay.
What about 14?
14. Three x squared plus 12x plus 6. So what are they setting you up to try to force you to use here? Quadratic formula, which you could do. They're trying to force you to do quadratic formula, and I'm like, not me. I'm not gonna, because I have a lazier way. Well, whether I did quadratic formula or complete the square, which is the lazier way, either way, I'm gonna get rid of the 3. I'm gonna divide everything by 3. Now, if you divide everything by 3 on both sides, you end up with x squared plus 4x plus 2 equals 0 divided by 3, 0. Now, I want you to notice these are 2 different parabolas. And I want you to understand why we're allowed to do what I'm about to do. Why are we allowed to divide by the 3? This parabola, the original, has a steep slope. Let's put it, he's got roots. I'm just estimating. I don't know where the roots are exactly. But he's going to have a y-intercept up here at 6. And he's going to have a very steep slope because it's, right, 3 in front means a steep slope, stretches it. His vertex is going to stretch down to here. Going to come up like this. That's going to be this guy. This is a different parabola. He's going to have a he's going to go something like this. And he's going to cross down here at 2. Why am I allowed to get away with just dividing by 3 and get a totally new parabola? Because the zeros, x-intercepts, solutions, roots are rooted in. This is why they call them roots. They're rooted in. If the question was about y-intercept, could you do this? Because you got a different parabola. If the question was about vertex, could you do it? If the question is about slope, can you do it? Only reason we get to get away with this is because they're asking about the x-intercepts, solutions, roots, zeros. That's why we're allowed, okay? All right, so now that I've justified why we can just divide by 3, let's go complete the square. You guys remember?
No.
I'm glad you don't remember. You know why? Because I have a lazier way of doing it than what you learn in the classroom. So let's just start, what does it mean to complete the square? A square what? So I'm gonna set it up based on the definition of what it means to complete the square. A completed square is a perfect square binomial. Set up your perfect square binomial. I don't know what goes in there yet, I'll tell you in a moment. I'll tell you in a moment. But set it up, why? Because that's what it means to complete the perfect square binomial. Now, see this 2 over here? It's your fault that I'm not able to factor. Let's get rid of him. He's causing us trouble, get rid of him by doing that, right? Subtract him from both sides. I don't consider this a step in completing the square. I consider this your obvious, logical setup. Yes? Because by definition, this is complete the square, and I gotta get rid of my troublemaker. The 2 steps. You think you can handle the 2 steps? 2 steps, that's all? Okay. What are we gonna put in that binomial? Half of your b value, we're gonna put in a positive 2, and here's step 2. That's it, square it and share it. So we plug in a 2, square it, and share it to the other side. Square and share it. Then do some simple algebra. What do we have? We have, this here equals 2. So we're going to take the square root of both sides and get the roots. And what do we have? We have x plus 2 equals what? When I take the square root of both sides, x plus 2 equals what? I made a bit of a mess here. Can you see where, can you follow my flow here? I moved it. X plus 2, I do the square root, right? And over here, when I combine them, I had this. I take the square root, so x plus 2 equals, thank you, plus or minus the square root of 2. Therefore, x equals negative 2 plus or minus square root of 2. And to me, that's a lot more elegant and simple than quadratic formula. 2 steps. Do your logical setup, half of the b, square it and share it. Then you take the square root. Then you don't have to worry about fractions and simplifying and all that stuff that happens with quadratic formula. So the answer is? If you want practice with completing the square, you can go on to anything from Khan Academy to there's this thing called CUDA software that I like to use a lot. Ask your math teachers. But let me tell you right now, completing the square is the absolute perfect tool for 3 types of advanced math questions on this test. Let me get rid of this big mess. What we did was, right, we had this, right? And then we took the square root of both sides because we were looking for the roots. We took the square root because we wanted roots. What if we wanted vertex form? Just bring him back. Converting from standard form to vertex form is one of the chief reasons we complete the square. So it's useful for getting roots, for getting vertex form of a parabola, and for putting a circle in his standard form. Because remember the equation of a circle? The equation of the circle is 2 perfect square binomials. So guess what you'll have to do? Complete the square. So these are the 3 advanced math concepts that to me, completing the square is the perfect, easy solution. half of b squared and share. So getting roots, getting vertex form, and converting the circle into its standard form. Those are the three big uses for this text. Erase it? Okay. So, number 15, probably?
15, yeah.
Language. Oh, by the way, no, so number 14, like if you get that wrong, that's gonna be C for concept, completing the square. If you had 13 wrong, that was S, strategy, you didn't cheat. 15 is gonna be pure language. So, check it out. We've got 5 nines, and if I distributed it, I would get what? Minus whatever 32 times 5 is all over 9. Turns out, based on the language, I don't care. Because, what does the language tell me? What of the following must be true? Let's read option 1 together. Would someone do me the honor?
A temperature increase of 1 degree Fahrenheit is equivalent to a temperature increase of 5/9 degrees Celsius.
What kind of language is it? What are they asking me for? An increase in this causes an increase in that.
Correlation.
They're asking me for what kind of relationship do we talk about? Look on your language sheet. An increase of this or an increase of that.
Proportional?
Take a look at your line language. Down, yeah, it's the slope, thank you, but we're not gonna call it slope anymore. It's the rate of increase. So if you catch the language in Roman numeral 1, what are they asking me for? They're asking me what's the rate? 5/9. Next question. Hello, right? If I catch the language, I go, well, it's 5/9. So Roman numeral 1 is true. Cool. What about Roman numeral 2? They switch it a little bit. They're asking me what's the rate for C? Well, I can't tell you yet because guess what? The rate's on the wrong side. Let's bring it over. What do we have to do? Multiply, multiply, no, I don't care. I don't even care. What do I have to do? Multiply both sides by 9/5. So, what is the rate for this? 9/5. Oh, we did a decimal. Guess what 1.8 equals? 9/5. So Roman numeral 2 is true. And we don't have to test for 3 because if, they don't offer all 3 as an option. And if Roman numeral 1 is true, Roman numeral 3 cannot be true. So this is all about language. Watch the language. They were just asking you the rates. And so the rate on one side, but then you have to convert the rate to the other side to tell that. Okay? Next. Did I hear 18? So before you get into the question at all, what do you have to observe about the marks on your triangles? They're isosceles, therefore what must be true?
They're
Opposite angles are equal. So if you don't make that simple connection, oh, the sides are true, therefore their opposite angles are equal. The sides are true. The sides are equal, therefore their opposite angles are equal. If you don't make that connection, you won't solve. That's the first connection you need to make. Next, you need to just go find out what Z is from the information they gave you. What does Z equal?
30.
So therefore, what are my two angles in the right side triangle? 75. How many degrees in a straight line?
80.
So 105 more. 100 degrees in a triangle, 180 degrees in a triangle, 180 degrees in a straight line. These will be used every test, a couple of times. So that was, the connection was, you need to immediately say, all right, their opposite angles are equal. Who put, for number 19, did anybody put 320? Okay, good. Because if you did, that would be an enemy trap, because you solved for fries, but they wanted hamburger. Are you guys okay with reading that and creating the two equations?
Can we go over it?
Sure. Baby language. What does it say? It says, each hamburger, right? Hey, what did has mean on our front page of our Watch Your Language? Has 50, what is more? 50 more than fries. Those are my two, that's one equation. Then what does it say? If what? 2 hamburgers and 3 fries have 1,700. Those are your two equations, right? Just baby language. And then we're going to use either substitution or elimination. But notice your enemy has set you up to make a nice, neat substitution for H. And then you solve for fries, and you plug in 320, because you forgot to add an extra 50 to get hamburgers, because that's what they're really asking for. They're setting you up, so be careful. You got hamburgers, you got fries, you do your math. Read the question one more time. Oh, good thing I read that, because I was about to plug in for fries, and they want hamburgers. What about 20? Any questions? Yeah, you do.
Yeah, can you go?
Yeah, you do. Okay, so here's going to be triangle ABC. Here's triangle DEF. They're proportional. They're similar. They tell us. Oh, this is not A. Oh. Stop. There you go. DEF. So there's two truths about similar triangles, and you'll get tested on one or the other. I've never seen them test on both in the same test. Maybe you might. But the first truth is that all corresponding sides are proportional. We've talked about that. We've seen that. Here's the second truth. And do we write it down already? All angles are equal. All corresponding angles are equal. Therefore, all of the corresponding angles, sines, cosines, and tangents must also necessarily be equal. So, what is the final question? You got all this blah, blah, blah. What is the final question that we are supposed to find for them? If I want the sine of F, all I really have to do is get the sine of C. So students who did a lot of work in this triangle, you're not being lazy enough. Too much work. I'm just going to find the sine of C. And that's the sine of F. What pieces of info? 2 pieces of info they give me, and the rest is easy peasy. BC is 16. AC is 20. Therefore, I can immediately tell that I have a 3, 4, 5 triangle, right? And I'm looking for them because Mr. A said to, because it's a super fave and they will use them on every test. So if this is a 4 to 5 ratio, well, this is my 3, the sine is 3/5, next question. I don't even have to find the actual length over here, do I? What if I did, what would it be? 12. So I don't assume it to be a 3, 4, 5. I test my ratio. It is a 4 to 5 ratio. 3, 4, 5. 3/5. Any questions? Okay. Let us jump to page 1084. We're shifting gears. We're going to spend a little time in reading, and I'll give you your homework.
1084.
Sorry? 1084. 1084. All right, let's try. I've told you before when we talked about there's 3 major types of questions that constitute about 65% or more of the test, and those 3 questions are big picture, vocab, and 10 and pairs. Those are the 3 types of questions. What are your 4 disqualifiers? Perspective is on all of them, so perspective first. Timing, quantity, and degree. Well, it's kind of like quality. Degree. Perspective, what are your 2 questions you should always be asking? Point of view about what? Then we have timing issues. We have quantity, and their favorite quantity disqualifier is? Singular, plural. Watch out for that. And lastly, degree. And these disqualifiers could be woven into the question. They could be found in the text. They could be found in the answers. They could be found at any one of those points. So we have our filters up. We're ready to use those. All right, let's take a look at question number 1. Isn't this a big picture question? Summarize.
Yeah.
So let's go cheat. Let's go read the blurb. You didn't help me any.
Yeah.
Oh well, I still read the blurb as a habit, yes? Well, maybe the fact that it's 1911 could potentially help. Historical time frame, right? So, wait a minute, that first paragraph's ridiculous. I'm not reading that whole thing. For my first, how are we gonna adopt our strategy? What can we do here to get the essence of the first paragraph? First and what up? So this is a differentiation. I think this is important. The way I apply the strategy is I would read first and last of that paragraph. The first 10 lines probably won't be adequate. The last 10 lines probably won't be adequate. I'm going to read first and last of that paragraph. Now with the last paragraph, I read the last 10 or 12 lines. I don't read first and last of them, right? So that's the difference. If I got a really long first paragraph, I'll read first and last of that. And if I have a really long last paragraph, I'll just read the last 10 or 12 lines, okay? So let's do first and last. It's particularly long, so I might read the first 2 sentences and the last 2 sentences, maybe. You never know, because some of this old writing, you know, 1 sentence could be like 20 lines. So you have to adapt, rather. All right, so let's start. Can I get a volunteer to read the first? Okay, Leslie, thank you.
Lady Carlotta stepped out onto the platform of the small wayside station and took a turn or 2 up and down its uninteresting length. To kill time till the train should proceed on its way.
Now, I might be satisfied with 1 sentence covering 4 lines. I might read the next sentence. That's up to you to apply the strategy according to your understanding, okay? I'm already okay with, it's about Lady Carlotta, she's at a train station. I would go to the last. And then I look at the last sentence, and it seems to be a pretty long sentence, so I pick up in line 32, Lily.
Before she had time to think what her next move might be, she was confronted by an imposingly attired lady who seemed to be taking a prolonged mental inventory of her clothes and books.
Okay, so far, the summary is, Lady Carlotta's at a train station, and she bumps into some lady there who's checking her out, taking a long inventory of her clothes. I don't know. My answer is going to be much more broad than I have anyway. Lady Carlotta meets another lady at the train station. Last, let's go to last. Oh gosh, this is about, how many lines? Looks like to me about 16 lines long. Okay, maybe I'll read all of it.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, okay.
Mrs. Quabarl, to use a colloquial expression, was knocked off her perch. She was one of those imperfectly self-assured individuals who are magnificent and autocratic as long as they are not seriously opposed. The least show of unexpected resistance goes a long way towards rendering them proud and apologetic. When the new governess failed to express wondering admiration of the large newly purchased and expensive car, and lately alluded to the superior advantages of one or two makes which had just been put on the market, the discomfiture of her patroness became almost abject. Her feelings were those which might have animated a general of ancient warfaring days. On beholding his heaviest battle elephant ignominiously driven off the field by slingers and javelin throwers.
So I'm not 100%, I may need to go check out some more, but it seems to me that Mrs. Q is the imposingly attired lady that she ran into Lady Carlotta at the train station. And that in this point here, I'm thinking Lady Carlotta's probably the new governess. I don't want to assume it, I may need to go prove it, but in general, Lady Carlotta meets Mrs. Q. She's not impressed with Mrs. Q, and Mrs. Q feels a little bit disappointed that Lady Carlotta is not impressed. Something like that. So, let's go take a look at our options with our filters. Option A, a woman weighs the positive and negative aspects of accepting a new job. Well, there's a governess here, but what filter does this run into?
Positive. The job.
I did not find any positives and negatives about the job, so that's one concern. What's my quantity disqualifier? What is this passage about? It's about two people.
Yeah.
So I don't like it about one person. So the quantity disqualifier is a big issue for me here. What about B? A woman does not correct a stranger who mistakes her for someone else. Well, there are two people. I don't know anything about correcting or not. I don't see evidence for or against that, really. I don't like it, I leave it. Let's move on. C, a woman impersonates someone else to seek revenge on an acquaintance. What's our filter that we're worried about here?
Revenge.
Is it revenge, like extreme degree? Did you find anyone being vengeful in here? No. I don't like the vengefulness. D, a woman takes an immediate dislike to her new employer. Well, there's two people. Lady Carlotta is a governess. I don't get anything about her disliking Mrs. Q. I know it has to be B or D. I might need to go into the body to find out the better relationship. And that is one of the minimum limitations of your first and last as you apply it to literature. Especially as you apply it to literature because there's a flow of story, of plot. So in this case though, we can easily say it's B or D. And then we're not going to get trapped with anything from A and C that could potentially be in the body. So if we then go, I would find that to me, if I was forced to pick B or D, B doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but what is wrong with D in terms of degree? Timing, there was an immediate dislike. I could go test that. I could go and read where they immediately, right where they met, and I could read to see if she dislikes Mrs. Q. And you read, and there's no immediate dislike. Now what seems confusing is how could Mrs. Q mistake her for someone else? Well, this is 1911, and that little context tells me there's no photo ID. She's traveling west. You must be the new governess if you read this. Look at line 36. You must be the new governess. And then look at how Lady Carlotta responds. Well, if I must, I must. I guess I'm the new governess because I'm traveling west and I need a job. And in 1911, I can get away with that. And so that's why it is going to be B. But you see how I applied it? In a worst case scenario, you narrow it to B and D, and then you may, when you go and read more, you can narrow it down.
Yeah.
But I did not like the dislike in D. And when I read, Lady Carlotta doesn't immediately dislike Mrs. Q, so that's why I would have to disqualify D, even though B seems a little like what?
Yeah.
Okay? Vocab. Turn. Lady Carlotta stepped out onto the platform of the small wayside station and took a turn or two up and down its uninteresting length to kill the time. The train should be pleased to proceed on its way. What words should we connect turn to?
Walk.
No, that's your vocab, that's good, but up and down means she's back and forth, right? She's on the train platform. Up and down the length, you would have to walk. And then, what do you do when you're trying to kill time? You take a turn up or two down the length, and length is also important too. So all of this tells us she's just pacing. So then we go look at our options and say, that's easy. But if you don't make those connections, I get a lot of students pick A. The length is not a slight movement. Killing time. Well, what do you do when you're killing time? Slight movement?
Like it just didn't make sense
Slight
in the
movement.
context.
Right?
It just sounded good.
Okay. Well, good. And I'm going to leave the tandems. No, we have. Will you stay with me like a minute or two late?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the tandem, 3 and 4. This is important. What is that actual question in number 3?
People see Lady Carlotta as.
Yeah, but that's not a question.
How do people view Lady Carlotta?
Yeah, how do people view Lady Carlotta? What do people think of her?
Yeah.
Any sort of point of view, people about Lady Carlotta. Any other of our filter disqualifiers shouting out at us, beware, beware? Yeah, there's one. It's the one I told you is one of their faves. Perspective, timing, quantity, degree. What's their favorite? Quantity disqualifier. So if I get one person's opinion, is that the answer? No, I need people. And if you look at, students pick lines 23 to 26 all the time. And they pick this because it says, it is to be feared that she lost the friendship of the ultimately rescued lady. Because what do you think they match that with in number 3? They match it with unfriendly, she lost the friendship. Those match, but they don't answer the question, do they? So, if we read lines, I'll let you finish from there. I wanted to make sure that we walk through. You find lines that give an answer. I'm going to leave you with this. See if you can get it. When you think you have an answer, use the words from those lines for the answer. They're going to use a lot of high vocab. Use words you know. Don't focus on the words you don't know. Use words you do know. And I think you can get this answer. So your homework is to do sections 1 and 4. From now on, we're going to do a verbal and a math, right? Sections 1 and 4 of practice test 3. Sections 1 and 4 of practice test 3. So the reading and the calculator math, do it time, but finish. And look for, I will be sending you guys, hopefully at the beginning of the week, I'll be sending you guys that video vocab and start doing the vocab. That's part of your homework as well. Start doing the video vocab. I will be sending it ASAP. Okay?